I think that there's this common misconception that the only reason someone would have something negative to say about Walt Disney World or places like Walt Disney World is because they've lost the magic, whatever that means. It's like one day they get to Magic Kingdom, walk down Main Street, and they just don't feel as compelled to fall to their knees and cry at the sight of the castle like they once did. And therefore, everything is ruined. The magic is gone. I mean, it couldn't possibly be that the rides have fallen into a state of disrepair or that budget cuts have meant that so much has been removed from the parks or that the quality has completely gone to shit. No, it couldn't be that. It could only ever be that we, the people who have something that isn't glowing to say about a place, we're too close. We've done it too much. We've seen it too often. And that is why we have not great things to say. And I mean, obviously that's not true. But it is something that I think a lot of people think. I think it's something that a lot of people seem to use as a very convenient excuse to excuse away the negative experiences that people like myself have. And this is not the first time that I've seen this. I see people say things like this all the time, not only to me, but also to others as well. Like, well, you go all the time. That's obviously why you feel the way that you do. I mean, I can see how the maths for some people. I can see how it makes sense to think that the more you're at a place, the more likely you are to have experiences, good, bad, and otherwise, and therefore, put it all together and yeah. But one thing that I don't think people consider is that for a lot of people, myself included, people who take what we do very seriously, people who are here for the sake of trying to help you figure out how to vacation better and do it with less stress and all of that. It's not a matter of like compiling every negative experience we've ever had and sharing it with you as one number. It's more a matter of taking into consideration the amount of time that people spend in these places and experiencing the things or considering the things that we experience in that same type of time frame, like in that same type of package. For me specifically, the things that I said the other day when I had mentioned that I have been having so many negative experiences recently, this was during our conversation when we were at Magic Kingdom, looking at the Emporium and then going over to Grand Floridian. I wasn't thinking about random negative experiences that I've been having, one here, one there. I was thinking about the way things have been going recently in the spans of time that I have been at the parks, at the resorts, wherever it is that I've been. And in most cases, I've noticed that it's like a lot of things all happening on the same day within a span of a few hours. And again, I know that there are some of you out there who are going to go, well, it's because you're keeping an eye out for it. But truthfully, I'm not. The way that I do things, the way that I do what it is that I do here has always been to go into every experience with no expectations. Just see things for what they are. Let them play out the way that they're going to play out, which is something that I've kind of figured out, worked out how to do over the past, nearly 20 years now. I started doing this back in 2006. I know I wasn't on this channel talking about Walt Disney World specifically since then, but I've been doing this travel thing for quite some time, working out how to look at things and see things in a way that would help me figure out how to communicate with you in a way that will help get you where you want to go. So I'll go to a place, do a thing, and the only thing that I really can't get around is knowing how to get where I'm going. That's something that's just kind of stuck in your head. You're familiar with the layout, so you can get where you're going with relative ease. But everything else that I do with an open mind, just experiencing it like I'm experiencing it, which isn't unlike what some of you might experience if you're visiting the parks, even if you're here for just a day or a weekend, maybe a week. And I think that maybe that is a tough thing to realize when you're like on your side of the camera, like when you're watching someone like me who's here as frequently as I am, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, that can't possibly be, and you try to find an excuse. It is so convenient to excuse away my experiences by saying, well, you're there all the time. But I have to wonder, would you feel the same way if you were hearing the people who experience those things with me, the other guests who are doing the things that I'm doing at any given moment or experiencing the things that I'm experiencing? Would you say the same thing to them, even if this was their first visit to Walt Disney World, even if this was going to be their only visit to Walt Disney World? When we have the conversations that we have here on the channel, we're having them not because I'm trying to make something out of nothing. We're having them because I, just like you, have not always had the opportunity to be at Walt Disney World as frequently as I can be at Walt Disney World now. We're having them because I have a firm grasp on how high stakes these vacations can feel, and because I've spent many years trying to shove 10 pounds of vacation into a 5-pound bag, just like so many of you have. And I wish that I had had someone to give me the answers that I try to give to you. And I wish that I had had someone who, through all the other noise, was willing to be open and honest with me, even if it was difficult to hear, so that I could get the actual information I needed to solve the problems that I might encounter before they arose. And that's what I do here on the channel. And usually I try and take a casual approach. We're just doing this together. We're experiencing these things together. But I think that for some people, there's a little bit of a disconnect because it seems maybe a little bit more casual than it is, because I'm usually not going over the nuts and bolts with you. I'm not sitting down and telling you that I have this thing that I've been working out for weeks trying to see if I can make this work better for you, or I'm not showing you the notebooks full of notes that I have taken, or opening up my phone and showing you how many little things I've seen go wrong or right in the park so that I can work them out and share them with you. I'm also not taking the time to explain constantly why I have the approach that I do. Like, I touch on that, but I try not to sit here and continuously remind you of that day after day, because I trust that, hey, maybe you've heard it, maybe you get that tone from me, or the idea that that's where I'm going with all these conversations that we have when we sit down and we have these conversations. So, that said, I think that it's important to recognize that we can always find the faults in other people when they're not saying exactly what it is that we want to hear, when they're speaking the truth that happens to be an inconvenient and uncomfortable truth for us. And I feel like it's so incredibly easy and very convenient, especially when we're talking to people who are so very much like ourselves, right? Like when we're talking to vloggers and we're talking to bloggers and stuff like that. It's really easy to discount what they're saying because they have experiences that we don't have, or that we might never have, like being able to go to the parks more frequently. But I gotta ask, would you feel the same way if we were talking about anything else? It's an interesting question, If you were talking to someone who had more experience with a thing than you have related to anything outside of Walt Disney World, would your immediate reaction be, well, maybe it's because you have so much experience with that thing? Would you feel the same way as you do when you suggest that vloggers, bloggers, content creators, whatever, are too close to a thing? Something to think about. But anyway, those are my thoughts on this particular subject. I hope that those of you who, you needed to hear it, I hope this made sense to you. And if you didn't and you just hung around, I'm glad you did. It's always good to have you. But yeah, for now, I think I'm off. Enjoy the rest of your day and, think about it.